Okay, this is our Empathy Circle Facilitators group, and I'm going to start by sharing our, it's kind of create a little bit of a slide deck for the group. So this is the Empathy Circle Facilitators Support Group, and our intention is to build a culture of empathy and for mutual support for Empathy Circle Cafe facilitators, which includes tips, experiences, challenges, problems, successes, case studies, designing training material, promotion, improving the practice, and requesting, having requests for co-facilitators and coordinators and support, etc. So. And also our intention is to move the Empathy Circle practice forward. So just kind of improve it and kind of spread it. And it's hosted by Edwin Rutch and the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. You can get to the Culture of Empathy website, cultureofempathy.com, and by the Empathy Tent at empathytent.com. And invitation, if anyone is viewing this online, you're invited to take part in an Empathy Circle, and to become an Empathy Circle, do the training. We have a free 4-session training online, and you can also join this facilitator support group if you'd like to become a facilitator, and all that material is at empathycircle.com. And notes to participants, feel free to take care of yourself, get up, stretch, move, use the restroom. And we're going to start with just a quick check-in and just a bit of mindfulness, and I'll stop here. And so we're just going to take 2 minutes to check in. Thanks for Carolina for having suggested this before. Would you be willing to take the time? Do you have a clock, Carolina, to let us know when 2 minutes is up? And I'm going to try to pause the recording for those 2 minutes. And this is just a little bit of quiet self-empathy time, self-connection. Everything's been hectic out there and dealing with stuff out in the world. We're just taking 2 minutes of quiet self-connection just to ground ourselves and to sort of a self-empathy time. So we can start now. Maybe close your eyes and zoom the video. Yeah, I figured out how to pause the video so people won't have to watch it 2 minutes. Yeah, so I just want to do a check-in, go around, how is everyone? Just, take up to a minute or two just to check in, and I can start. Just did a 2-hour Empathy Circle before this. So I've been sitting a lot and feel a little stiff, but excited about the group because I really wanted to get a good format together. This is our second meeting, so excited about getting a format and the structure together and really design something that's really effective. So kind of excited about doing that, and so looking forward to today's meeting. Carolina, you want to check in?
Okay. As well, likewise, like Edwin, I was participating in a meeting maybe a half hour ago, and a lot of stuff for me. I'm less advanced in Empathy Circle than the rest of you. I feel still a little bit lost in this document, and I'm trying to understand everything. Not everything is clear to me, but I feel more and more with every minute. I feel more comfortable. So we will see.
Okay, thanks. Daryl? And you're muted.
Yeah, it's been quite a whirlwind week. Dropping off a friend in Kona, which is a couple hours away from here, and then yesterday, doing a lot of shopping. We're still working on our house here, so that's been our main activity. And personally, I'm doing really well, feel good. Yeah, that's about all I have to share.
Okay, and Lynn?
Thank you. Hi. And I want to thank everyone for showing up today and, sharing your experiences. And I'm grateful that you're all here. I am feeling pretty good. My cold is almost gone, but I feel a little foggy, little fuzzy kind of still, but better, way better than a week ago. And this week I actually did something I've been wanting to get to. I started in again on our garden a bit, so it feels really good to get involved in the dirt and the plants again. And yeah, that's about it for now. I think I feel pretty good though. I do.
Okay, they're in Hawaii. When I heard the birds singing in the background as we were doing Hawaiian, it was very nice. Bill?
Yeah, I was on the call as well. And so I kind of stretched. I'm feeling pretty good. Can't wait in Northern California here for finally the sun to come out. I know that might sound weird to other people. And I've just been recovering from kind of a mild sickness, and it's been hanging on, and I'm tired of it.
Okay, thanks. So let's go back to the slideshow. Slide deck. So this is an overview of today's meeting. We did our check-in. This is the topic stack. So these are reports, requests, offerings. Each person can take 10 to 20 minutes or whatever. There's no fixed time. I wanted to start with the on arrival question. That was how might we harvest the group insights? And then thought, Carolina, we could maybe follow up from last week. We had talked about framing topics. So just kind of what happened on that, on framing empathy circle topics and titles. And maybe we could just follow up on that. Was there anything else you wanted to add? Besides, okay, that's it. Bill, he had various ways we employ the empathy circle, sort of next steps. So it takes some time to talk about that. And then Daryl wanted to talk about icebreakers, and had done a bit of research on that. And Lynn, did Lynn have something? You're muted, Daryl.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you. Nothing really specific. I guess I'm wondering if we touched on it last week, maybe how once people have come together for an empathy circle, what the format might be of the group. But I'm not sure if that's too early to talk about that now or not. But just with what the different suggestions of what different the protocol might be.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm not. That came to me. I'm not. I'm not.
Okay, so just kind of like the structure of an empathy circle.
Yes, thank you, Edwin.
Okay, and then we'll just have next steps, talk about any next steps and close. And so our on arrival question was, how might we harvest the material that comes up in this support group? And there's, I wanted to explain the issue and then go around and discuss for a while, and we can get back to the group here. So I had put in some links to an organization called The Art of Hosting. In The Art of Hosting, they do facilitation workshop facilitation, and they bring together different processes. They bring together a World Cafe, open space, just a bunch of different practices. And they have a really skilled trainers and facilitators, and they kind of they'll take one topic and go really into depth with it. And one of the themes that they have is called harvesting. And I put in some links to some videos and some written material about that topic of harvesting. And so harvesting for them is like when you do a training or a workshop, how do you capture the insights from that workshop and make it, you know, accessible. And so we have one thing that we do when we do the empathy circles, we're recording them. So there's a, you know, video recording. And, you know, I've tried having people take notes and so forth, but, you know, not everybody's into notes, note taking. It takes time to create sort of a minutes or a report. You know, people haven't been very excited. I think it takes like a real personality who's really into it to sort of to write up something. But it's anyway, that's sort of the question I have, is just how to make the, you know, to have a way of kind of harvesting the insights that we have from an empathy circle and being able to, you know, reuse it or, you know, put it out there. So that's what we wanted to go around and just share. So I don't know, you probably didn't get a chance to see the video, but it's something maybe afterwards you could see the video on the harvesting. And in fact, they sort of framed the whole workshop, the whole trainings, as starting off with the intention of the harvesting. It's like when we're doing, like, if they were doing an empathy circle, it would be like, what is the thing that we want as the outcome? So it can be an attitude, you know, a feeling that comes up afterwards. It can be some written material. It can be a video. So what is the final harvested, you know, product, and I guess, or so. So I thought we could just go around and everybody just shares your thoughts. And we may go one round about sharing your thoughts on harvesting, and, you know, how could we harvest? What would be an effective way of harvesting? And then we'll just open it for discussion for a little bit. So does anybody want to jump in on that? Oh, well, Bill was the, maybe just go down the list here. So Bill, you're on the list here.
I'm on the list. Okay.
You're on the list. We'll just go straight down the.
I don't know if that's good or bad. All right. Yeah, I you know, I guess what I'm feeling is that there are lots of insights. I certainly, the last circle was, you know, quite moving and actually created, it kind of went from angst to hope. And I really liked that did that. I'm okay with harvesting, but I also, I'm sort of ambivalent because I feel it can get too tedious too quickly. And, you know, and then things are so, you know, complex and things like that. So I'm on just kind of, you know, keeping it simple. And then I think more of a model of then doing something and then coming back and, you know, maybe talking about do's and don'ts or something like that. Like go to a demonstration. How did that work? What worked? What didn't? Something like that. Or we did an empathy cafe. So that's, you know, that's sort of how my feeling is about that. Thanks.
Okay. Great. And next was Daryl.
Yeah. So as I've written here in the Google Doc, you know, my input on this would be to release the audio of each meeting to everyone in the group, and even if, like, Susan's not here today because she's doing a relationship seminar, you know, and then each person would, you know, transcribe what they think they hear. And I like what Bill was saying about, you know, there's so much inspiration, and there's, you know, it could spin off into other, you know, epiphanies and things like that, which I think is valuable myself. So I like that idea. It was kind of inspiring to hear Bill say that. And then, you know, and then each member share their transcriptions, you know, we're on a common site, you know, where everyone can access them. I had thought it would be good to do another transcription or a compilation, but then again, as Lynn said, that pointed out rightfully, that'd probably be a lot of work, you know, probably a lot of work. So I just think, you know, I personally would like to do that. I'd personally like to transcribe, you know, what I think I heard everybody say. It's almost a work in empathy just in itself, just transcribe it. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, Lynn, do you want to?
Yeah,
share?
well, actually, I'm kind of, I'm just stealing from, not stealing, but bouncing off of what Daryl said, and that I really hadn't, I kind of thought before I heard Daryl's earlier today before we came online, that we would just, well, I thought somebody typing, but my God, no. Then I realized really shortly after that, it'd be crazy making for the person not being able to contribute, but being busy typing the whole thing, as you said, Edwin. So, but on Daryl's, for the take, I agree. I mean, I really feel the way that he and Bill mentioned too, that what the person then would transcribe from the audio, from being given the audio, which I think is great, would then really, it's true, just transcribing what maybe points out to them as being the most valuable for their future use, and putting that up and sharing that up on Google Docs. Great idea, because then you get to see what everybody else has thought of on a certain topic, on a certain point that was made during the meeting. So I think that's a great idea. Yeah, everybody sharing their transcription of what mattered to them the most. Maybe anyway. That's yeah.
Okay, thanks, Carolina.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by transcripting. I know the word, but well, I do a lot of transcripting, and it's a lot of work, a lot. So I'm not sure if it's kind of efficient way. Well, I know. Well, when I watch one of those movies, you put link in the Google Docs. It doesn't have to be minutes or transcription or whatever. We have to. Well, if it works for you, that's okay. For me, with my language skills, it might be a horrible job to do. But what is the most important thing? We should kind of figure out what we want to achieve thanks to this meeting or any other empathy circle we do. What is the goal? What is the purpose? And what is the topic, the material of we deal with, and the fabric of what we deal with, and that would tell us what the harvest we want to achieve. I think it's kind of it might be whatever. It might be mind map. Okay, it might be whatever comes to us. You know, I can't imagine now, but it should be connected to the topic, to the fabric of our discussion. Well, I use on purpose the word fabric, and we shouldn't. Well, that's my suggestion. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just learning what you're doing, but maybe we shouldn't plan too much work. It's better to kind of plan small steps, because transcription is a lot of work, a lot. Well, that's my experience, and the effect is kind of long a list of different statements in spoken language, and it's very hard to find the clue. So maybe it's better create kind of minutes. Everybody creates his or her own minutes of the talk, kind of essence of the talk. That's just the idea, the thought that came to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just.
Yeah, we're just throwing ideas out here, just any sort of thoughts. It's no clearly formed, you know, we're just.
What do you think, Daryl?
I agree with you. So I think that the word transcription is being used. I used it very loosely.
Okay.
Because, you know, we don't want go through and get everybody's voice and, and all of that. That would be too tedious. But, I would say it would be, what we could do is distill it down to the important points.
Okay.
And then, bouncing off what Bill said, if you have an inspiration, or epiphany out of it, maybe adding your 2 cents into that, so that we're kind of learning from each other's experience as we continue on.
Okay, I understand now.
Well, I know for myself, I do a lot of note taking, but they're just like sort of raw notes, and they're not very useful. So I got pages and pages of these raw notes that are, it's like, they're, and yeah, so I'm just trying to be more effective somehow. Like in the last empathy circle, I actually did, because it was a larger group, so I wasn't talking as often, so we had a lot more time. So I actually was taking notes and then organizing them kind of by headings, and I kind of liked that because, I had, well, here's the problems, here's the things that was giving people hope, and here's the thing that was the action ideas. So I could start seeing how what we were doing was creating, had a shape. And then I also gave a reflection, from that. So sort of summarizing the whole groups. And it has sort of an integrative property to it. And in terms of, oh, yeah, Carolina?
No, I can wait.
Oh, yeah, so that was sort of it. It's just, I've been recording these, and, people often take a look at the videos, and then they come to meetings and say, oh, I already know how to do this because I watched the recordings. So that's been helpful. But going through the recordings and transcribing is like so much work. I have a foot pedal, for that, and I've done some, but it's just like, So I'm just trying to figure out what the best way is. What are some ideas for effectively going forward? Yeah, that's it, Carolina.
I was just thinking, what if we try to put some, for example, everyone gives 1 up to 3 ideas that came to him or her during the meeting. We can put timing of this moment when we kind of got association. Okay, somebody said something and something came to me that we can do something. Okay, and I point, okay, in 15 minutes of the recording there was such situation, and I think we can do this or that, or there is the idea of something, and blah 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 blah, and this is one thing. Okay, and maximum, let's see, maximum 3 ideas, and that's it, no more, because I have to kind of choose what is important, what is not to put on you all the burden or the burden of all thoughts I have. No, I have to choose what is important, what is less important, and give you just the elements, the material that is worth to share with you, not just dump on you the whole information chaos. Okay?
So kind of like at the end of the meeting, you say, what is your quick summary, like 30 seconds or less?
Oh, for example.
Yeah, of the top, what was the essence of what you got today? So you have to sort of summarize it, and you just hear everyone's quick summary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 1 or 2 ideas that stick with me after this meeting. Okay.
Oh,
for example, but 1 or 2, maybe 3, no more, because it's too much. If there is 6 people on the meeting, imagine 18 ideas. Okay, it's a lot. So maybe 1 idea, maybe 2 ideas, no more. Everybody has to kind of work on with discipline.
Okay? 15 seconds.
Well, maybe not time discipline, but thoughts, ideas discipline. Okay, not
We could,
to flow, not to give a flood of information and ideas. And that's the thing.
everybody just jump in. What do you think? We're just sort of brainstorming here. What you think about that? I mean, we could do it at the next meeting next week at the end of the empathy circle, sort of test that.
Yeah, I like Carolina's input on that. 2-3 ideas and salient, the most important ones to you, to share that. Yeah, I like that. Because it is about harvesting, and so that's like the fruit, the final product. So anyway, sorry, Bill.
That's all right. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that brevity is its own reward. And so I like the idea of 2 or 3 main ideas.
I do too.
Okay, great. Well, at the end of the meetings, at the end of the circles, we do have like a 10-minute, like, what do you like about the process and what would you like to change? And that was really handy because it was a very small piece and I could go in and transcribe that. So there's a bunch of transcriptions and I was able to harvest like a whole bunch of really positive comments. So that was pretty effective for harvesting what you like about it. So this is like sort of a harvest of what's the real essence. So yeah, I think that's...
But it has to be clear about what is harvest, because when we practice empathy circle, we actually choose different topics, but the main idea is to practice empathy circle, empathy dialogue. So this is the question is if we look for harvest from practicing empathy circle, or if we look for harvest from the topic we discussed. Okay, so we have to be certain about it. It must be clear.
The question is what is your topic summary and sort of the essence of the, like, how would we frame the question? Like, what is the topic, your topic summary, or?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
What is it, if we have, at the end of the meeting, we say, what is, from everything you heard, what is the group's kind of summary of what you heard, just the essence?
It's okay. I'm just saying that we have to be clear about, we ask about feedback or harvesting from our practice, or we ask about feedback from the discussion. That's what I mean. We just to clarify what we ask for.
So it's topic or what, or
practicing empathy dialogue. What we ask for, what the question is about.
Okay.
Those are 2 different things.
Right. Well, there's another piece, sort of like the practicing empathy dialogue, is, I also imagine like something that's like a short couple lines essence of what your learning was about listening, something that we could post as a separate post to the Facebook page. It's like a little learning that people could engage with. I don't know if that makes any sense. I don't even have a good example. Like, it's something I'm just thinking about. It's something where we have something to take from the empathy circle to the Facebook page, and put a post in there of some little learning, and it creates a sort of a jumping off point. It's not very well articulated or clear, but it's just something I want to throw out there.
Do you have any screen to share with us, or you are not prepared for it now?
Yeah, I don't have a clear topic. Like, what would it be like? Oh, what I learned about listening. Yeah, I don't know. Forget that. I'm just not, I got to think about that more. It's like, I probably need some empathic listening on that. Because I'm kind of at the, I don't know, there's something I want and I'm not quite sure what it is.
Maybe next time.
Yeah, maybe next time I'll have that. So, okay. Then was there anything else on that? It would be good, by next week, maybe we'll have a sort of a follow-up next week. And if you can watch the video on the harvesting and that, then we could just kind of do a little bit of a follow-up. So let me see. If there's something else on the topic. Okay. Let me bring up, I was going to just try to share this just so as we have, as a way of the video kind of being broken up and having topic headings. I'm just going to share the screen here. And so last week we talked, Carolina had brought up the topic of what is the best way to frame a topic, how to have it be sort of efficient or, clear, not putting a lot of judgment in it. So do you want to, kind of talk about that again and just kind of what did you learn in the last week? Because we did talk about it and we did do some actions around that. So you want to just take 10 minutes or so to talk about that?
Well, actually, may I?
Yeah, it's all you've got the floor.
I was actually on the meeting today about dialogue every day. It was kind of workshop. And we were talking about asking questions. And there are different types of questions. And the most difficult or dangerous questions are those that include opinion or assumption. If we ask somebody how difficult it was for you, this question have an assumption that it was difficult. It's only the question how much it was difficult. It's not the open question. It doesn't leave the full opportunity to answer our question. It doesn't let our the person we talk to answer in any way this person wants to answer. This person has to admit, okay, it was difficult. It wasn't less difficult or more difficult. So the idea is to frame the questions on our topics in more broad, open way, that there is no suggestion, no opinion, no any assumption in them. This is the most important thing. Well, that's what came to me. More kind of simple, small theory in asking questions.
Yeah, and we had, our task was to discuss the masculinity and empathy. That was the topic we had. And so, I know you had written a bunch of comments about it. And
yeah. You want me to talk about those?
Sure, because that was sort of our assignment.
Well, I have to find that now. Okay, I see it.
I actually see you in the page, so I do have it here.
Yeah. Okay, I am on the page. Well, I put some suggestion in this document. In general, I was trying to avoid any narrowing. As I said before, for example, there was a question, what is relationship of masculinity and empathy? Well, it was interesting question for me, but for example, but I see that I wrote that it kind of narrowing to the one issue, okay, one only relation between masculinity and empathy, and it kind of, if we talk about masculinity every week or every month, we can ask such question, okay, because it's kind of regular discussion. But if it's one discussion, I would prefer more general question. That's my point of view. There was question, for example, how might we create a new masculinity rooted in anti-oppression with a foundation of compassion? For me, it was kind of biased expression and kind of inviting only particular group of participants to the discussion. So I would like to find something more open to any side of this discussion, any participants with different view. I would like to see on such a discussion people who admit this phenomenon in our culture, I don't know, masculine domination or something like that, and people who deny it. So the question should give them the chance to participate. And well, I created question like, what are the consequences of masculine domination in our culture versus consequences of exaggerating a non-existent problem? So it was kind of statements. In one question, I put different views on this topic, but then I realized that it's also narrowing, and then I wrote very simple: your thoughts on phenomenon idea of masculinity, and it gives the chance to say whatever anybody wants to say. But well, that's my ideas.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, it's there's a real thought. A lot of thought goes into it, right? It's like you got one idea. It's like, well, here's the consequences of that, and thinking it through, and yeah, it takes a lot of a thought to frame the questions, and it's a whole art in and of itself. Maybe I can just share this was the poll that we can, or if you can see this, but this is the poll that we ended up with doing, bridging political divides with empathy circles. So this was the poll that we asked in the group, and we had 5 people vote for what is the relationship of masculinity and empathy. And oh, actually, I'm going to vote for that one too. So there's 6. And then how do we create a new masculine identity based on empathy? So yeah, there was responses, and that was kind of how it.
Yeah, and that's what I perceive as kind of narrowing the group of participants and point of view. Kind of, okay, we have to discuss that men are not empathic, and we have to make them more empathic, and that's it. It's kind of narrowing. It's hard to accept for me.
Which one, the number 2? How might we create a new masculine identity? Or both?
Based on empathy. Yeah. Both of them are kind of, okay, we have lack of empathy in male half of human race, and we have to force men to be more empathic. And it's kind of, we can only discuss this. Okay, if we talk about masculinity all the time, we can choose such topic. That's great. But if it's one meeting, I would prefer something more general. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, well, just open it for discussion a little bit. Just any other thoughts around that?
Sure. I think that Carolina makes a very good point. I think in practice, the only other thing is in practice, sometimes you kind of make it narrow, or you talk about it because it garners people's interest. So sometimes you're trying to, mail an empathy if there's like with the Joe Biden, whatever you call it, or whatever that's happening in our country right now. And so sometimes that, you can use it for that, purpose.
Yeah, it's like something that triggers people. Like I went to a meeting. It was called "The Lies Feminists Tell."
Yeah.
So it's like it's meant to get people upset and to get people to come to the meeting. So you're
provoking.
It's promoting and
I mean provoking.
Oh, provoking. Yeah, provoking.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Susan had a view on it, like how to bring it into your personal experience. Like, it's like what to make it more personal. Because what is the relationship of masculinity and empathy? Sort of broad, general, but it's not like a personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had some good. Sorry, she's not here because I think she's got a mindset that kind of thinks in terms of framing questions about the personal impact. Like, what have been your personal impact of masculinity on your something like that? I don't know. So.
Yeah, it's good point. It's very important. Yeah.
Daryl or Lynn, any?
Well, I'm still a little triggered by Carolina saying that men aren't empathetic and we have to force them to be empathetic.
I'm sorry, it's not my opinion. It's not my opinion. It's the opinion I find in question.
Well, it's interesting and interesting point of view. So I'm kind of a little dwelling on that a bit.
It's not mine.
Yeah, it was a social justice activist, I think, that posted that question. Someone along those lines. So yeah, in the poll.
Visions of empathy police, You're not empathetic. Let's teach you now. But it's a very interesting topic and one I would love to explore. I think that's
well, maybe let's make this question good.
Yes, exactly. I think it's a very compelling question, and I think that it's one that could probably get lots of mileage and benefit a lot of people over a long period of time.
I didn't catch that. What is the question?
The relationship between masculinity and empathy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I think that is a topic that could go on for years. And from my point of view, it's probably one of the number one topics aside from developing authenticity in our communication and emotional intelligence. Is not so much masculinity and empathy, but why have we as a culture, as a global culture, perpetuated the war against women for since the time of Mesopotamia. Yeah, I mean there's we're stuck in a trap, in a cultural war, not of our own making, but one we need to resolve. And I think that this particular question addresses it, kind of sneaks up behind and addresses that issue and allows people to come to their own conclusions. So I like it very much.
Well, I hope you can come next week. It would be great to have it'll be at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is probably kind of early for you there, but it would be great to have you take part in that, Daryl. And Lynn, I don't know if any thoughts, Lynn?
I can see the wisdom of that question that we're talking about now, the relationship, because it is very open. There's a little bit of trigger there to create real interest and curiosity, and people can come from both sides, or all sides, even middle of the road people on it who just are looking forward to discussing it and finding out more about that. So yeah, I can see why that kind of framing would be very valuable. Just two words, relationship, using the word relationship. That's good.
So for you, it seems to be a very good question, such a provocative or kind of, well, for me it was a little bit narrowing, but it seems like such a provocation in a question and assumption, kind of, makes you even more interested. Well, you want to go to this meeting and discuss that. That's what's happening.
And I think that what I'm taking notice of here is that word relationship is not too presumptive. It's kind of, I mean, it is, because it's bringing those two words together in the same sentence, but it's not saying a relationship one way or the other. It's sort of, it leaves enough of an opening that people could imagine there being an intelligent discussion around it, not all angry necessarily start from the get-go. That's my thought. So it's something to take home in doing our own empathy circles. I feel like those, yeah, I think it's, and what Bill said about you need to have a little bit of controversy. I mean, just to peek into this to make sure people are going to want to come. So there is a need for a little bit of that. So anyway.
May I ask the question? If there is a chance that such a, well, kind of provocative question may bring some people who, for example, deny the problem of masculinity, masculine domination on patriarchy in our culture, if such people would come to such meeting, or just decide, okay, another Sabbath of feminists will come and discuss in their own circle masculinity. It might be kind of such, well, it might be a reaction like that.
I'm thinking, gotcha. And I'm wondering what would there be a question that a male who believes that males should dominate the planet, if they would even ever want to come to anything. That's a discussion.
But that's my question.
Except for their very own, maybe spite.
Yeah. You could frame it. Positive expressions of maleness. Your models.
Oh.
That's one thing. And I have to insert a joke. One of my favorite jokes is there's a woman by the name of she does a cartoon called Sylvia, and one of the favorites is she's sitting with her male friend in the kitchen, and he says, "Face it, Sylvia, you need men. What would the world be, without men?" And she thinks, and she says, "Fat, happy women and no crime." And the fact that we're laughing means there's something to that.
Essence of our culture, in short. Well, that's what I mean, what I think.
Well, with that one question, that question did have the most votes too, of the people that voted. So I guess there's, posing, we gave sort of options, and people did vote, and they were all able to add their own comments, their own choices. So we did kind of go by majority on this, so that's just one way of approaching it.
Right. And I see two balancing things here that we would then, as we go forward, would be sensitive to. One, are we creating, reframing something so that we're really just appealing to one, smaller group? And the other one, are we being so politically correct or something like that, and lose the kind of juice or the electricity? And I think there's going to be somewhat of a give and take there.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was great. Just to recap, it was a bit of a recap of what we started talking about last week. And so I think we're ready to move on to the next topic. So let me share that. So it was Bill And this is to share, discuss, get feedback on this. You had posted various ways we employ the empathy circle next steps.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to take the floor for 10, 20 minutes to talk about that?
Yeah, I doubt not for that long, but just two ideas that sort of, in my own practice, what I'm trying to do is I'm going ahead on, I would say, well, several fronts, but basically I want to go and to bring the empathy tent to flea markets and, other kind of fairs and things like that, to give people a chance in a very a non-tense or stressful situation to be introduced to it and then maybe sit down and be listened to. The other thing is to, kind of work on, online. And then there were two other ideas that I had, which I'm not willing, because I know Edwin's going to ask me, well, what are you going to do about this? And so I'm not quite ready to go there yet. But one I thought was like a designated listener. You would get a T-shirt, and when you felt like it, you would be in baseball in the United States. We have a designated hitter, a person who just hits. And so you would go out and designated listener, you'd have your T-shirt, and then you'd be willing to listen. You'd kind of go out, you have a few minutes, and then if somebody really needed listening to, you could listen to them. And then plus it would also propose and spread the idea. The other one, as far as political is concerned, is to harvest some of the questions like we had on climate change today, get the person's permission, of course, to use that, and then, get like a really iconic or we feel powerful question about, let's say, climate change, and then show that to the lawmaker, the video, and ask them to reframe, to listen to what the person said, and then possibly respond. This would then also encourage the lawmaker themselves, who have access to media, to, if they felt they did well, to also propagate the video and spread it. So that's my deal.
Okay, so what is your requests or offerings for feedback, or what would you?
Well, I'm just, I guess the next steps would be, what would a T-shirt say? That people might just come up to you and say, yeah, no, empathy, listen, but are you ready to listen to me now? So it would be a different, we have online, we have with the cafes, which are trying to get going. We have participation in public and political events. And then I was just thinking of, just somebody's having a bad day, they need to be listened to. And then they see that. And just something, so it'd be the wording of the shirt, how we can invite people in with structure, so not people just say, and abuse people. And then the other thing would be how to engage politicians in a way so that they get positive incentive to propagate and to respond, first of all, to the constituents' concern, and then also to propagate and spread it, the listening circle, their reaction.
Okay, well, it seems to me that that's two different questions, right? The first one is just, how do you offer listening to people kind of on the streets?
Yeah, just as like a shirt. So you could go around and people could just do that. I mean, and just to kind of think, what if you're having a bad day, instead of worrying about being mugged, you knew you would pass about 5 people who would be willing to listen to you. Quite a different worldview.
Yeah.
So it's kind of street empathy therapy.
Yeah, in a way, or whatever it is, because it's going to be all different out on the street.
Yeah, I like it. The idea of being able to go out there and be an empathy emissary, if you will, and then you could also pass it along. So you say you do an empathetic session, and I really need to research more about it. But based on my experiences, you listen to somebody and then you just repeat back what you think they heard, and the other person says, yes, that's exactly what I heard. To be able to go out and sort of, play tag, if you will, with empathy like that, but under sort of a certain structure. In other words, you teach somebody the skill, and then they go out and they listen to somebody, and then that person go out and listen to somebody. That could be a transformational. I like it.
Yeah, because
go ahead, please.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm talking too much.
Here, that's a new way to volunteer your time to do something good for society, for our world. It's great. People who are lonely, people who are single, and people who are just lonely would probably be pulling you over, I would say, if they're at a fair or they're they'd be curious about it. Certainly they'd ask and then get started. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Okay, well, I'd like to interject then, because I think that what Bill said in terms of like when you're at a flea market or whatever, if you're able to get the organizers on board and say, hey, this is an empathy event, right? So people are going, to this flea market to buy their stuff or make bargains or whatever. But then, you have this tag that it's an empathy event. So then there's this other attractant that, there's an empathy circle there. You're passing that skill on, and then people can actually practice empathy while they're, say, at a flea market or at any other number of event, whether it's a farmer's market or, any other kind of public gathering. It could be a subtext to that if you did that with the organizers. I like that. I think there's potential in that.
Mm-hmm. And very often, people, there can be a tent of empathy. I mean, where the empathy circle group, I'm sorry, I picked the name of the whole thing, Empathy Cafe, people would have a tent, and maybe where they would also conduct empathy circles in that tent at scheduled times, but also at the fair, when there's a fair of many different organizations that have tents. That lasts maybe 2 days or 3 days even in a city. There could be a designation, a designated 5 people that would wander around, and then people would ask questions. And, we have a tent over there. If they're asking, what is that? We have a tent over there, but also I'm just here to listen to you if you want to. So because maybe the circle would could be have a tent at one of these fairs.
Well, we do have the empathy tent, so I can show it to you. So this is.
Yeah.
So we do have the empathy tent we went to a political convention. We set this up outside too, in the park and downtown Berkeley, and been in Sacramento and Los Angeles. And that's actually Bill right there. And that is an empathy circle, he's taking part in. And here, Lou, who's part of the team, he's just listening to one person. So when we do the empathy tent, there is we do have someone that just sits and has a sign or whatever. It says I'll listen, and also we bring people into showing them how to do an empathy circle. I'm a bit more of a fan of teaching people how to take part in an empathy circle, because it's then that's where they learn how to speak as well as to listen too. So it's more of an educational from that. And so at the tent, I've got this, we have this as empathy circle, some contact info, empathy tent. And then on the other side, it says free empathy. You can present this card to receive 10 minutes of free empathy. And it's like no judgments, advice, analysis, detachment, diagnosing, sympathy, pity, or interruptions. It's like, so we do, when people come by, I just say, would you like some free empathy? And then, we also have signs that says, here to, empathy, here to listen. So we do have sort of an infrastructure, set up for doing that, and people come in and they can just be heard, or then they can take the next step of doing a sort of an empathy
the idea of and I agree with all of that. I mean, it's and you do want people to get deeper. The thing I thought about the shirt is that one of the things we were talking about as impediments to spreading it was the production, doing all the production on it. And so it would cut out all the production. You would just go out there and, and you'd essentially be advertising it, and you'd also be doing it. And so that might be a way for people to get in very easily without having to do a lot of production.
Oh, I see. There's a group in Los Angeles that does the free empathy. I mean, free listening. It's just pure listening. And they've been around. It's called Urban Confessionals, and I can just share the page here. So that's like cutting it down to the bare bones. It's like you got a sign that says free listening, and there's a bunch of people, doing this. Wow. So he kind of started an organization. I don't know. There's So here's another one, free listening. So they do it. And then there's another organization called the Sidewalk Talk, who's probably the most advanced. Sidewalk Talk. So they've got, signs. I've worked together with them to, set up. So they get it. They teamed up with college therapists, I guess. And and people learning to become a therapist, you have to put in free hours, I think, so many hours of supervised hours. And so they've kind of created an organization, around the free listening. So those are, some sort of resources around that. And it's like, having signs. They have a T-shirt. It just says Sidewalk Talk. You talk, we listen. So, there's a lot of sort of logistics. But so it sounds, Bill, though, you're just saying, like, you just go around, you've got the empathy T-shirts, like, we listen, and then you don't have to have a sign or anything.
You go out in the day, and then you see. It would be a way for people to kind of, ramp up at their own pace. And then, also, I'm thinking it would just put a smile on. I mean, like when we put out the empathy tent, even if people don't do it, they love the idea. And I just seeing that somebody's willing to listen. I think that would, that would have an effect. Yeah.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
idea would be to, to make it easy for people without the production.
Yeah, you just get a T-shirt, you put on the T-shirt, and when you walk around during the day, you got this message that, I'll listen. So
you should be trained, though. You should be trained.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Carolina.
I just want to ask a question. How many people comes to your tent during the day, for example? How long you are there on the street, and I don't know, how many people for an hour or 2 hours or a day, how it works like in practice?
Yeah, I've been setting it up ever since Occupy Wall Street, periodically, and it really, it can be, half a dozen. I've done it where just half a dozen come by to, 20, 30 people. When we were at Politicon, we must have had, 100?
Yeah.
Not more people come by the 2 days we were there, maybe even more. I think more than. Yeah, but that was at a conference. So.
So I'd like to ask a question, and admittedly I have my own response. But when you deal with somebody who's angry, who just really needs to vent, and obviously you don't want to be at the effect of that or take that energy in, do you have a means of dealing with that, or does that actually happen, or has that happened yet to you?
Yeah, it has. I was at this was at the protest to protest the family separations, and I had actually two beautiful, one African American woman who was trying to find her cultural niche and you know, it was like her heroine's journey. And then another guy who was a paraplegic who had been abused and wanted to talk about how upset he was that he was that children were still being abused. And those were like very, very powerful and wonderful. And then I got this guy, kind of like a quasi-homeless guy, who was just trying to shock me. And he was talking, he had some dialogue. I won't go into the detail because you probably want to eat your lunch later. But he, you know, was talking about his wife was having this, you know, affair. And yes, being a special ed teacher or retired one, not too much. I mean, I've really had some of the, you know, experts. So basically just trying to stick with the process and not, he's trying to get a rise. He quickly got bored and went away. Like he, you know, I said, oh, so you're trying, and when I really tried to listen and parse out his BS, he couldn't keep his story straight. It was too much energy and he left. But there would be, people would need some training on that. I am a trainer in nonviolent crisis de-escalation that I did. And so, you know, you could offer a little bit of like that. But basically, if you don't rise to the occasion, if you don't take the bait and you just kind of stick to the process, it's amazing how that's just effective and people kind of you know, immolate and leave. Virtually speaking, not actually speaking.
So maybe it's about kind of giving up ego and focusing on the procedure, on the process. And there is one thing. And another thing is that okay, maybe later on. Okay.
Yeah, for addressing anger, it's it's just doing the empathic listening. So here you're feeling angry. Is there more? Yeah, I'm really pissed off at you. You're an asshole. So okay, you think I'm an asshole? Is there more? You know, yeah, you're a fucking piece of shit. So you think I'm a fucking piece of shit? Is there more? You know, I'm here to listen. You know, tell me more. And it's like, oh, I just had a bad day and I just had to get that frustration out. So, okay, you're just feeling frustrated, had a tough day. So it's doing the empathy circle over and over again. It's like, I don't think people realize that I think the empathy circle is like a practice, like meditation. You know, you just keep doing it over and over again in more and more context. And you slowly get better and better and more resilience around it. So, and then you start getting that mindset, like, oh, all I'm doing is reflecting where the person is. And, you know, yeah, that's like part of it.
Now, is there a way that you create, like within a few moments, if you're just doing on the street, create a safe container where you kind of explain like ground rules, like say, you know, I'm just here to listen to you. I'm not here, you know, like your card. Hey,
that's the listening part. That's the ground rules right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you actually do that when you meet somebody sort of spontaneously who wants to take you up on your listening?
If it's for the empathy tent, because it says 10 minutes too, so you put a time limit on it, because otherwise people might just keep talking for, you know, hours. It just won't stop. Say, okay, well, that was our 10 minutes, so I need to be available for other people. So that's the one thing. The other is, you know, we have the ground rules. I know, Lynn, you were asking about the ground rules. If you go to the empathyscircle.com, it says how to empathy circle, and all the steps are there, you know, for, you know, and then so we have a little handout that we give and say, well, this is how you do the process. And we have timed limits, so you get like 5 minutes. So in terms of if there's a lot of anger and people are pissed off, you want like shorter times for each person, because people are so pent up with wanting to speak. If you have a long time, then they get frustrated. So you get 3 minutes, you know, to begin with until people calm down. and then you can go up to 5 and 6 minutes. So there's that. Yeah, Carolina.
Doesn't it happen that when you are reflecting a person who just offend you one word, another word, and again, and you're just reflecting, okay, so you're saying that I'm stupid, you're saying that I'm that, this, that, and so on, and you're just reflecting, doesn't it produce kind of more fury in that person? It's kind of, it seems to me that it might create even more aggression.
It can, yeah. Those are some of the issues, like don't reflect back what I'm saying, that's like, why are you saying that? It sounds crazy. You're a nutcase. Is this some kind of a cult? It's like, I've gotten that. And I said, well, that's just what we do. We're just doing active listening, so you got to find ways of addressing it.
Well, maybe the problem is how we, the intonation and the how we say that. It's very important.
Right.
Yeah.
If they feel it's sarcastic, then it's provoking.
Yeah.
But if they feel that you're just kind of, and especially if you're willing to show a little vulnerability, like I'm not sure, it's amazing how people then shift.
So you have to find in yourself kind of readiness for being empathic to this person who offends you.
Yeah, and a lot of practice too.
Yeah.
It's like, because it's some of these stuff is so subtle, and I get, things blow up. Even it's like, be aware if things can blow up, and don't kick yourself for it. I've had it where, people say, you're not listening, you're not hearing me, and I'm reflecting exactly what they're saying.
Right.
It's like, okay, you really, so, it's not a panacea, but we need to keep, developing more and more skills, and just get better over time.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is to have the ground rules. So I think, Daryl, as you were saying, it's like, this is the ground rules for the relationship, and this is what I'm offering. That's what we're doing, if that's okay with you. It's even in an empathy circle. If people say, hey, I don't want to do this reflection anymore, I said, okay, well, that's the ground rules of the empathy circle. Then we're not doing an empathy circle, and I don't want to take part. So goodbye, go do whatever you want, but I'm not part of it. So it's, it's having those agreements and ground rules. The ground rules is sort of protecting too, because it's like it protects everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone who seems to be of healthy mind, but just wants to talk to someone, comes up to you wearing your designated listener T-shirt, before you begin, you would explain just real quick. Okay.
I'm just going to be reflecting back. This is just a way to maintain connection, make sure I understand what it is you're saying. I'm not going to be giving you advice or feeling sorry for you. I'm just going to follow you and reflect back my understanding, just to make sure that I'm with you. I want to accompany you on whatever you want to share. Mm-hmm. And the reflection is just a way of helping me accompany to make sure I'm still following what you're saying accurately. And that, so, yeah.
And the
sorry.
No, go. Well, basically, real quick, the lettering of the T-shirt then would help frame that. So you might say, listening without judgment, or something like that. That would help people, start to accept the framework. That's
you're kind of carrying the ground rules in a sense in the T-shirt.
Yes, thank you. Yes, good.
Carolina, you already had a
Well, so I understand that this rule of 10 minutes kind of also protect you before against being too much oppressed in those oppression situation.
People would just talk and talk and talk, and it's like, and it just like wants to.
And I have a question about it. if you do any debriefing after the every empathy tent, because if it lasts for many hours, what's happening to people who are kind of bombed with
Yeah.
what people talk, it kind of,
We
there
do
is
an
probably a
empathy.
need of
Yeah.
debriefing or something like that.
We start off with an empathy circle. Everybody checks in. What are your concerns? What are your worries? And that helps bring out the anxiety and ground everyone. Even during the tent, you can go ask, and I've done it. I did a mediation in Los Angeles, and I did 6 mediations like out on the tent, and I was starting to lose it. People were getting critical of me, and I went over to an empathy buddy and I said, "Oh, I need some empathy. I'm just feeling like I'm losing it." And they said, "Okay, here you're losing it. You're just feeling upset. You're needing a little bit of grounding." And it just helped. Just a few minutes, 5 minutes of that kind of helped ground me to go back into it. And then afterwards, have a debrief. So yeah, as facilitators, you need a lot. That's what this group is about. Is that we create a network of people that can support each other and debrief. I mean, and get your own empathy too, because we all need it for our own grounding. I did have a video of, it's just a 2-minute video. I can show the empathy tent, and that we did work together with Sidewalk Talk. And it was after the Trump election. It was in Oakland. And I can just show you this video. It gives you just a sense. It's only a minute and a half of kind of how it looked at the tent.
Cool.
We didn't hear.
Oh, I forgot to, when I shared it, I forgot to hit the audio part for share computer sound. Okay. So we're here at the empathy tent at Lake Merritt in Oakland, and we're offering empathic listening to people to be heard. There's a larger event here, the Hands Around the Lake, and there's over 6,000 people going to be here circling the lake and holding hands and connecting with each other. And our group, Culture of Empathy, is here to offer empathic listening, conflict mediation, and we're working together with the Sidewalk Talk group who's offering listening here at the tent. So we've got a really great turnout, and yeah, very excited about this, and talking to a lot of people and reaching out and really connecting with people. So that's what we're doing here.
So I think what's going to happen
Yes, that was with Sidewalk Talk. You can see there was a whole row of listeners. There was maybe 6 or 7 listeners. Oh.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, it looks like fun. Looks like a great event.
Yeah, really.
So yeah, it sounds like Daryl and Lynn, you are interested in doing some kind of events too, besides empathy circles, maybe going out in public with the empathy tent or type thing.
Certainly thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be interesting to be to do that. I would like to be part of a rather than just say Lynn and I, have some sort of a group.
Yeah.
A small nucleus, if you will, so that at the very least, at the end, you could debrief. But yeah, I think that would be pretty fun. Absolutely, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I like the idea of walking around wearing a t-shirt that would welcome people to come up and talk with me after I have experience, of course, a little bit of experience more than I have.
Mhm.
But anyway, the tent, yeah, I don't know where that would happen nearby us, but hey, we travel, so
Mhm.
sometimes. Hmm.
Well, it's starting with the empathy circle, it's just getting people together, doing it online, getting some local people to do empathy circles. It kind of starts with this practice. I just see this as sort of the foundational practice. It's sort of the building block. Even the empathy circle is sort of needed for being a listener, because you're sort of practicing listening. You're also getting a place to come back for your own support as a listener. So that's why I just keep harping on the empathy circle as core practice to replicate as much as possible. So, okay. So was there any other topic? I think that was Bill's topic. We sort of got into, Daryl, a little bit. Oh, you were talking about, did you have something? I think you were talking about introductory, intermediate, and advanced empathy circles.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. How to do that. Let's see, I don't see it on the Google Doc anymore, but yeah. So,
Maybe you could do a search on for Icebreakers.
no, there's that right here. So yeah, so
Okay.
what topics are best suited to empathy? Empathy canopy events, what you just showed. Then introductory, so when you invite folks to your home, and then after a while, you probably will have a group that's met for a while, and then more advanced, topics. When after you've been meeting, let's say a year or two, how do you progress? What kind of topics keep people coming back and keep being engaged?
Yeah. So well, there was on the empathy circle site. Let me bring that up.
Let's bring that up. So
If you go to
Sure.
www.empathycircle.com, I can share that real quick here.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, you had two other links on earlier in the discussion. I didn't get a chance to record that. If you could post those as well, two other empathy related websites.
Oh yeah, so the website is empathycircle.com, and then if you go to how to empathy circle, so these are just the basic instructions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you just go there, and that takes you to the cultureofempathy.com website, which is another resource. They're all interlinked, and then this is all like interviews and stuff on empathy, and then there's the empathy tent
That's good.
website.
Okay, so Lynn and I will go ahead and go through this.
Yeah.
We probably should have done this in the beginning, but never too late. So yeah, we'll early go through this so that we're better.
Yeah, just to get up to speed in terms of the processes. You can just kind of read through, watch the videos, but then how to sort of advance. It's kind of like you go from just a basic empathy circle, join the conflict ones. I guess the level is going to be going from very little conflict to a lot of conflict. That's like one level, or so how do you move? And so that, it's a basic empathy circle is like a foundation that you can go into, sort of restorative empathy circle, where people who are in conflict, you bring them together, and you add extra steps, but it all starts with this basic empathy circle. And so it's really the first foundational step, it seems to me.
Yeah. And I mean, what comes up for me when I, in talking about this is, where is this like, this practice of empathy powerful or poignant in people's lives? And what immediately comes to mind is, police officers. They have to deal with so much negativity and probably have very few outlets. I can just see where this act of empathy, where they can have access to that, could be very powerful then, and perhaps diffuse that energy, so it doesn't become, a mishap with people. And then also, parents, you go, you have this beautiful, loving family, then you go out to your work environment, and then, you have some overbearing boss or, whatever, and then it just triggers you, and then you have a bad day. If you don't have an opportunity to diffuse that, then you go home and you yell at your wife and kick the dog, So I really just think there are particular applications of this empathy practice that can be, very powerful and useful in people's day-to-day lives, if there's a way to make that available somehow.
Yeah, I see that too, as the active listening, being able to do active listening or empathic listening is something that if every person in the world had that skill, it would be really, quite fun. It would really cause a lot of cultural change. And the empathy circle is sort of the way to do it. And it's really, it kind of brings it, then it's like how to spread it, right? It's like we're doing the process, but the hard part is actually the spreading it and getting people involved in taking part. Like you're seeing the potential of it. We need to kind of like educate people to have the motivation to take part, because we, got all these people who sign up for it, and in the circles, like, we only had like 7 people, and 250 said that they were interested in it. So like, why aren't they showing up? So there's this whole marketing, getting people interested is like a whole nother topic to explore. So yeah, just checking the time, make sure. So yeah, is there? So those are things we'll be talking about in this group. You can just think about topics you want to talk about next time, and we just kind of use this basic format. Everybody gets some time, propose your topic, share on it, and we'll discuss it. And yeah, unless somebody has some better ideas. So I'm open to design of the group. I wanted to try to use the slide deck so that we can, there's a bit of you can easily see the different sections too, visually, if you're,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me, what I like is, in between time, between Saturdays, and we only have one more scheduled, so I'm hoping there's going to be a continuation of this. But, maybe be a little bit more active on Facebook Messenger, where we can have, little, ask questions or have little discussions during the week. So that I think that would be beneficial. I'm part of a drum troupe, and we communicate mostly about practice times, things like that. But then there's also a lot of other communication that is extremely beneficial to everyone in the group. So I'd kind of like to see a little bit more, between activity online.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of talking about before, is how do we have something that stimulates online discussion? Like if you pose a question, like one of these questions that you had, pose it to the Facebook group, that we create a bit of a dialogue in between the meetings. But you got to frame a question. It's got to be something that is, stimulates dialogue. So yeah. So if you have something, post it. Yeah. Then.
I'm sorry, Edmund, if I may, I thought, Daryl, you were maybe talking about how-to questions, like if something.
Well, I was talking more, not so much on the Facebook page, but more on the Facebook Messenger group, just having sort of an informal dialogue, and that nobody, of course, is obligated to respond to. But let's just say I have a question and I post it, and then, Carolina might have some input, or Bill might have some input, or Susan. And so basically just be sort of a running dialogue.
But I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to clarify, not a question about a topic to discuss like opinions, but a topic about how to do empathy, how to do something around empathy circle work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about posting that to the Facebook group? Because that's sort of where I think it can overlap there too, because because that way you post it and it's publicly available, it's recorded, and we can try to stimulate dialogue. Versus you're talking about a private group, which is just like.
I'm talking about like looking at the at what you posted today in terms of, hey, empathy circle facilitators training, at 10:30.
9:30,
yeah. But using that same, just a little more activity on there. So if stuff comes up during the week, rather than just talking together like we're doing now on the Saturday, there's a kind of a little side dialogue, going on during the week as well.
Amongst us 4 or 5, however many we are, because you feel safe and you're learning all together. Is that?
Yeah.
Well, we could try that if you want to.
Yeah, I'll try it, and if anybody responds, fine. If nobody responds, no worries.
Yeah, and then there's also there's that, which is sort of a private group, and then there's also the Facebook Bridging Divides group. So I think even posting something in there, you open it up to a lot of other people being able to comment, and I'm trying to figure out how to get more dialogue going there, and then people might be interested in joining the facilitators group too. So
yes.
Okay. Cool. Well, with that, maybe we can just take a quick wrap up. How was the meeting today, for just kind of a summary? Like how did it go for you? It's like, what did you like? What would you wish for?
Okay, well, I guess I'll start. I really liked the meeting. I'm enthusiastic, about what I hear and suggestions. I just think there's so much to explore here and just worthwhile doing. So I'm pretty excited about that. I like the idea of marketing this more, because like you said, you had 107 people or whatever who are interested, and there's only us
250.
250
for the empathy circles.
Yeah, but you had a certain number who are interested in being a facilitators training, right?
Yeah.
And they're not showing up. So yeah, it'd be a good way. It'd be nice to figure out ways to do that, to make this basically take on a life of its own within the culture itself. Eventually that's what you want it to do. You want it to be completely independent to you, but everybody has these skills. So I really like brainstorming and setting that as an intention, because it just can be so powerfully beneficial.
Oh, great.
So so I'm pretty excited about today. And but like probably some of those other people who say that they want to be here, I myself always experience a little bit of resistance. Even just posting my picture instead of being on the live feed, is probably a little bit of that resistance manifesting. So, but it doesn't take too much to push people past that resistance into participation. So you're finding ways to do that, I think could be really fun. Yeah, and achieve a great result. So that's all I have.
Since the square is on, Daryl, already,
Yeah.
say, I really feel I'm really getting it today. I got it so completely, the value of this whole thing. I've been sort of it's been a little bit nebulous to me, where I've had a hard time kind of figuring out what how this how this would shape up in real life, and how it could benefit. But wow, I get it. And with the talk we've had today about listening and the tense and the bringing people in and learning and I remember how good it felt that first time that Daryl and I popped in on you all, and we were listened to and practiced listening. That was a good feeling. No, you're not getting feedback. But you feel, being just heard is really therapeutic. It's I remember that feeling. So anyway, yeah, a really great thing. Not hard to implement, really, on a small scale, even in our own community. Just getting together some other people who might want to get together and sit around and learn this. So anyway, I'm hopeful too. It's exciting. Thanks.
Yeah, and while it's still on my cube here, I just want to say how much I appreciate Carolina's input and Bill's input, And of course, Edwin, thank you to host this. This is really great.
So true. All of you had such really, I mean, really, all of you said things I've made notes of here because they were key points, kernels for me. Yeah. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, do you want to go?
I'm just thinking about my problem I put into our discussion. How far provocative question might be to make our participant group more diverse, and where is the balance between provocation and openness? I still have some doubts about it. It was very interesting what you were saying about it, and you convinced me that the question has to be somehow provocative. I like this word. But I'm still thinking about it. It's still not clear. What if we ask the question that is actually provocative to our side of the political scene? We ask only questions that are quite provocative to the other side. But let's ask the question that is provocative to us, that we might feel kind of, what is it? Why somebody asks such a question? What is it? And we don't do that. So I feel kind of suspicious about it.
Yeah, so there's still open questions around.
And I'm still thinking about it.
Okay. And you can also pose the question next week again. You know, you get your 10, 20 minutes to talk about any follow-up. So, you know, you can bring it up too.
I'm curious what kind of group of participants will appear in this discussion about masculinity.
Yeah. Well,
that will be kind of test.
Yeah. There's an author who's doing an article. He wants to maybe do a series on this. So I hope you can come to that one because I think it should be interesting.
Okay. Thank you for your input.
Bill?
Okay. So I've enjoyed this like other. I feel that, you know, they were kind of creating an emerging consensus. And I think that I would like to actually, what we do with the practice of like a pre-circle and then a debrief circle, I think that actually should be codified in some way into our training for empathy tents. You know, it really is important. And then also, I enjoyed you all. Thank you, Daryl and Lynn. You know, I really gain a lot from everybody's participation. And the other thing is I put into the chat, especially because people were concerned. I am was a trainer of Crisis Prevention Institute. And if you go to that CPI and if you look there, they'll give you various ways to de-escalate a situation on the street or any place else like that. You can read it. And then please feel free to use me as a resource if you have any questions about that.
Okay, thanks. And so I'll close out. For me, you know, I have a real faith in empathic listening as sort of this practice, and I just enjoy, you know, talking about it, seeing how we can move this practice forward, and it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and in getting all the different ideas and feedback and comments about it, I just enjoy it, and the connection too. So just having a good time with it. So glad everyone's here, and yeah, hope to see you next week, and also have the empathy circle at, you know, a couple hours before this group. So spread the word. Stop the recording.